line. Bad bitches, every city in my tribe. Look behind. Booty dominate.
Hello, Rich
Hello?
240G. Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. How y'all
Yeah,
doing?
we can hear you. We're good. What about you?
I'm all right.
So, any topics you disagree with on the board?
I wouldn't consider it really disagreeing. I mean, I'm down to debate.
Okay.
I don't know, I try not to be like closed-minded.
Mm-hmm. What topic would you like to debate?
Um, well, I suppose like the men wanting to protect women, because I do think that most of us want to protect women, or any, not just women, like anybody who's not bigger or, getting picked on.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least that's my thought process. But there's a lot of stuff in this country that goes against us for this.
What do you mean? Like what?
Well, there used to be, in most states used to have good Samaritan laws. So like
Mm-hmm.
if I saw something happening, like if I saw your brother or husband or some random dude beating on you, and I ran over and just mollywopped the piss out of the guy, I wouldn't be charged. But now
Well,
in most
yeah.
of the states, I'll be given a felony.
Um, I don't necessarily think it has to do with like the felony per se. I actually genuinely think that I
And
genuinely
not
think
not
that
every man's going to be a protector. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I feel like we're raised and conditioned with this misconception that men are the protectors and women are the nurturers. But in fact, we see that men don't necessarily protect women on multiple instances, especially with regards to the violence that women are subjected to. Like, for example, the number one cause of death for pregnant women is unaliving in the hands of an intimate partner. And when we look at the unaliving rates, when we look at the SA rates, right, we can see that this misconception completely crashes because if men are kind of if it's men's nature to protect women, then why aren't they doing it with their loved ones? And also, like, there are multiple studies that go to show that actually women protect women more, and men tend to kind of
Well,
protect men more, especially when we look at how like law enforcement, which is a male dominated field, ends up always protecting the perpetrators when it does come to DV or gendered violence or also SA.
I'm gonna disagree with you there because I mean, especially I'm a veteran and I'm gonna tell you right now, like I've known plenty of very good guys that never hit their female partner, wife,
I'm
whatever.
sorry, but that doesn't mean anything when compared to
And
like statistics.
Yeah.
what statistics?
Well, she just told you.
Yeah.
What
Like
statistics? From
did you
where?
know that the number one unaliver of pregnant women was men? Their partner. Did you know that?
Well, that's just kind of common sense because you're not going to allow someone close to you like that.
Wait, what do you mean common sense? I'm a bit confused.
Well, obviously, the number one perpetrator of harming someone is going to be the person with the most access to them in most
No, that
instances.
wait, that doesn't make sense
It's
though. Shouldn't it be
violence.
like
Violence isn't random. It's
wait,
not random.
but you don't feel it's alarming that the number one reason that pregnant women die is because of homicide and not because of health reasons because they're pregnant? Like I would have
Obviously, that's
assumed that the
alarming.
number
That's
one
not what
way.
I said.
No, but
Obviously,
that's
that's
what I
alarming.
asked. That's what I asked. I know that's not what you said, but I'm saying to me it's alarming that the number one cause for death when it comes to pregnant women is not complications with regards to the pregnancy or blood pressure or any type of medical reasoning because they're pregnant, but instead it's the number one cause of death for pregnant women is homicide at the hands of their intimate partner.
Where did you get that from?
That's the CDC.
The CDC?
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay, that is pretty
Well, do you have a better
freaky,
source,
but
Rich, other than I know cops and they're nice?
I didn't say I know cops and they're nice, but okay.
Well, you did.
I didn't, but
Well,
okay.
anyways, that's besides the point. Do you have a better source that says otherwise?
I didn't say that I had any source about
So how are you going to sit here
women
and
being
say that the
unalived by their
CDC is a bad
partners.
source, that Athena doesn't know what she's
I
talking
didn't
about
say that it was a
Edith,
bad
you
source.
don't
Now
know?
you're putting words in my
no, I
mouth,
don't
dude. You
think.
need
Wait,
to
Edith,
chill.
I don't. Wait, hold on, Edith. I don't think he said it was a bad source, but instead he said "damn" because it was a credible source.
I
That's
said
my
damn
stance.
because I did not know that. Like, that is a freaking insane thing.
And
Obviously, that is not okay, and that definitely should be something people should look into.
yeah, and it's not only like so. I just looked it up. It's also Harvard. And they
Harvard.
kind of like yeah. So not only so
Oh, like a study? Or
the CDC has like a pregnancy mortality surveillance system that goes into like conducting national pregnancy related mortality surveillance. But then Harvard did that as well. And they found out that women who are pregnant or women who had recently given birth are more likely to be unalived than to die from other causes. And these homicides, so then the leading cause for pregnant women and for mothers who had just given birth was being unalived by their partner. Um,
yeah, that is insane.
and this was according to data. Well, it's actually according to multiple data. So one of the studies that they specifically cited was a study that kind of analyzed data from 2009 to 2019, and they found out that in 68% of these pregnancy related homicides, 68% of them involved like a pew pew.
Jesus.
And so it kind of goes to show that that pew pew violence is also supposed to be considered a health emergency for pregnant women and for mothers of newborns, but we don't even address that. And that goes to show that this is not necessarily only an individual issue, but this is a societal issue in how men are conditioned and socialized to view, perceive, and treat women, including when those women are their spouses or partners.
Right. Yeah, it's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
I I need to get a pen. I need to write this down. That's freaking crazy. I honestly did not know that.
Yeah. So, so if you go to Harvard School of Public Health, they have an article called, it was published in, so they released it in October of 2022, and it's called Homicide Leading Cause of Death for Pregnant Women in US. And then they also reference a study that is published in the National Library of Medicine with regards to pregnancy associated or also mothers or female victims right after after childbirth. So not only necessarily pregnant women, but also women who had just given birth.
And you said that is the Harvard School of Medicine?
Yeah, Harvard Chan School of Public Health.
School of Public.
So we can see that in all facets of like a woman's life, whether she is a young girl, whether she is a young teen, whether she is a pregnant woman, that women are regularly societal based, like subjected to like a lot of forms of gendered violence, especially at the hands of men, that then takes it away from it being just simply an individual issue of bad people to a more societal issue of how women are perceived in society, whether it is that the fact that we're objectified, we're dehumanized, and we're also viewed as like um, the inferior person with regards to how we are in relation to men, how we are depicted in relation to men. And that kind of leads and conditions and socializes a lot of men to treat women in that manner. And this is only with regards to intimate partner violence, right? When it comes to homicide. You then also have DV, you also have SA, you have gendered violence as a whole as well. That is somehow
Well,
normalized in society.
well, there's nothing really that I mean I could say that in any way, shape, or form would make that in any way acceptable. Or you know what I'm trying to. I might
Yeah.
be sounding stupid. I don't know.
No, no, not at all. No, I get it. Like I know that you weren't trying to justify it, but the issue that I have here is that when people's like when we say stuff like do men really want to protect women, when we see so many examples of men actually failing to protect women or choosing not to protect women on purpose to continue upholding a patriarchal system, or when we say stuff like all men, for example, these are not assumptions that we make without any proof, right? There is evidence and there is data to back up what we are saying and what we're fearing and what we're like fearing or feeling. And I think that's why do
Right.
men really want to protect women is actually a very good question. Because if men did really want to protect women, I think they would have implemented more policies to protect women instead of actually upholding. Like you mentioned, like
As a
the
whole,
military.
I don't think that men do. I think
Yeah,
you're absolutely correct on that. I mean, the stats and all that back that up. I
yeah.
mean, I do think, and it's just maybe it's because I'm like this, and my direct people that I know are that way. Where I mean, I've been stabbed before at a bar because of dumb being stupid and stepping in between things that I shouldn't probably have. But it's just a lot of dudes are not like that. Like that is not that's movie stuff. Most people in general, your self preservation overrides your honor or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not and I'm not saying that that makes anybody any less or any more at all. It's just
Mm-hmm.
I think that it was like a popularized idea, and it just kind of kept going through like movies and all that stuff. But when it comes to real life, there aren't. It's like there there aren't a lot of sheepdogs. There's a lot of sheep, you know. And I know that that's
What was
cringe, but
popularized to kind of understand what you're saying? What exactly was popularized through the media?
the idea that all men are protectors and courageous and
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of stuff. Because at least in my life, that has not been reality.
Mm-hmm. I would argue that that's a facet of the patriarchy and not necessarily only through the media. I would say yes, a big part of um, media does end up perpetuating and reproducing these types of stereotypes, but at the same time, I would argue that we kind of the patriarchy itself also conditions men into thinking this, right? The patriarchy itself
So like
conditions
a
men to like lack emotional intelligence by telling men they're not allowed to express their emotions. It tells men that in order to perform masculinity in society that they would have to dominate over women or dominate over each other, and only then would they be able to perform masculinity right. And I do think that all of these types of of all of these misconceptions and tropes have been spread through the media. I would agree with you there, but they've also just been spread through general discourse in society with regards to how men are raised, how men are socialized, um, with regards to like this like traditional gender roles, with regards to like fearing of stigma. So a lot of men might fear being stigmatized or judged by other people for not being man enough, and therefore they have the sense to need to prove themselves, and prove that they're masculine by exerting dominance or being or aggression. And I do think that it is closely interlinked with the patriarchy and how it conditions men.
okay, I'm gonna sound probably pretty stupid right now, but okay, I've never actually had it explained to me what the patriarchy is. Is it like society and the media and like just fireside stories type of like? Because you hear it
It's
all the time, and I
essentially
just have never wanted to sound stupid before and ask, but
No, you're not
it's
sounding.
essentially either like a social or economic or
Mhm.
government system to where men predominantly hold the power and women are largely excluded from it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's
okay.
as what Kenzie mentioned, it is a social system or structure in which like men hold primary positions of power and authority, and women are kind of viewed as the subordinate, the oppressed, the marginalized, the submissive counterpart. And so men not only hold like or typically hold a majority of positions of political, economic, or social power, but they also often make decisions that affect society. So as a whole, including like with regards to policies, with regards to laws, but also with regards to cultural norms and values. Um, and as a result, gender roles are promoted, inequality is enforced and perpetuated. Gender-based violence as well is enforced and perpetuated. But also certain like deeply ingrained cultural and social norms that kind of reinforce and justify gender inequality and male dominance. And as you mentioned, like media is one of the ways that these types of cultural norms and social norms can be reinforced, but also language is another way, religion is another way, art or any other cultural institution as well.
That is pretty crazy. So I guess the next question would be, so like just the crap from like my grandfather and stuff, that like what part of that is that, or would that be considered?
Wait, what part would be what considered? Can you ask your question again? I
Like
didn't understand.
getting uh like getting thrown in the river when I was 10 years old, being told to learn how to swim, being told to always suck it up, don't share, don't stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that,
That would
just from
be
like
that
my
would be
grandfather and
the
uncle.
Mm-hmm. That would be like the emotional suppression part, which also belongs under like toxic masculinity, but just in general traditional masculinity as well, that promotes stoicism, where like men are conditioned to suppress their emotions, even boys, because emotions are deemed to be unmanly or weak. And when we're talking about emotions, I'm talking about primary emotions such as sadness, fear, vulnerability, but then when you have secondary emotions such as anger, that is promoted because anger can contribute to aggression and dominance as well. And also, I'm sorry that that happened, because that sounds very traumatizing to go through as a boy.
I don't know. I don't know another way. So
Yeah. But I would, so Bell Hooks, in a book called The Will to Change, which she focuses on men and how the patriarchy affects and impacts men. She talks about the fact that men's first victims are men themselves, because they have to unalive a certain part of their humanity in order to be so violent, and in order to dominate over other people, in order to be considered masculine in society.
I actually referenced that
Mhm.
passage today.
Oh,
Mhm.
per.
And I
Yeah.
recommended that book to someone else too.
Oh,
Well,
per.
wait, what
Look
was the
at
book called?
us.
The
The
Will to
Will to
Change.
Change.
Will to
Yeah. So in The Will to Change, she also explains that we don't understand that enacting that patriarchal violence in itself can be very, very dehumanizing, right? The fact that, for example, a patriarchal system sees men as expendable as well, which we saw like during wars, where women were
Yeah.
like the incubators, they had to reproduce, but men are expendable, therefore they need to be drafted off to war and like die by the millions and nobody cares. That is also a way that the patriarchy dehumanizes men, and it dehumanizes men so that men can have some form of power or exert some form of power over women who are considered the subordinate. And so the Will to Change actually talks about that.
Great. Well, and I mean, I will say this too, though, for as far as like the violence and all that, I was taught from a very young age, you don't touch a woman, you protect females. Like that's just was a part of it, I guess. But that's not saying that I'm not justifying it or anything like that. It's still not a good thing, and I would never try to perpetuate that. But that was also a part of it, I guess. That's all I wanted to say.
But I would say that it's also like femininity in general is despised in our society. Wouldn't you agree? Because, like, for example, everything bad or negative, like negative characteristics or traits are associated with femininity. Like, for example, when a person cries, you tell them not to be a bitch, and we know that bitch is associated with femininity. We tell people don't run like a girl, or you run like a girl, or you cry like a girl, stop crying. And it's like femininity in general is just so demonized in our society. That's a primary reason as to why, let's say, some people despise gay men as well, because homophobia is also rooted in the hatred for femininity. Because how dare a man be in closer proximity to femininity instead of being masculine? Um, and the masculine is masculine is the complete opposite of femininity, and it's good. And so I feel like it isn't necessarily fully true that people as a whole are taught to respect and protect women, because which women are you talking about as well? Because black women are not necessarily protected or respected in society. But when you get conflicting messages from one side telling you that you need to supposedly protect women and not lay a hand on women, but then from the others, on the other hand, telling you women are inferior to you, they're weaker than you, when you need to dominate over them in order to be a man. And then also, you're not allowed to express any emotions, because expressing emotions means you are feminine, or you're in closer proximity to women, because only women express their emotions, and that is a sign of weakness. Therefore, you need to unalive that part of yourself as well. And so I feel like
And I
we.
think when we tell men and boys that the worst thing you can be is a girl,
Mhm.
then we are making women second class citizens. And there is already that idea of male superiority.
Well, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not like I haven't heard that.
But
You
it sounds like you don't really have any disagreements. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss?
my head kind of hurts right now.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
No, I
Yeah, if you
think
want to
I'm
come back
good.
another time, you're very much welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll drop down.
Hey, and I hope that you find a safe enough environment to be able to process and heal that trauma, by the way, because that did sound very traumatic, and I'm
Now
sorry you went through
Dina
that.
turning my life into a therapy session and
I
healing
can't
healing
I'm
all the
sorry.
men that come up.
I can't help it. I have to. Like, listen, that sounded traumatic. That's why. So
I know, I'm not
I hope you
it's
can
just so
process
funny.
it.
How I don't know how to do this. This is actually
Oh,
the first live I've ever been
yeah,
in.
I gotcha.
The quote I really really love from Bell Hooks is when she says, so in The Will to Change, she says, to create loving men, we must love males. Loving maleness is different from praising and rewarding males for living up to sexist-defined notions of male identity. Caring about men because of what they do for us is not the same as loving males for simply being. When we love maleness, we extend our love whether males are performing or not. Performance is different from simply being. In patriarchal culture, males are not allowed to simply be who they are and to glory in their unique identity. Their value is always determined by what they do. In an anti-patriarchal culture, males do not have to prove their value and worth. They know from birth that simply being gives them value, the right to be cherished and loved. And I feel like that is what true feminism is, seeking to create a more egalitarian society.
I
A
even said
society
today
devoid of
that I want
hierarchies.
to free males from the construct that man has been created under the patriarchy.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm so fucking cute, bitch.